Let's focus on Italy now, shall we? AC Milan with a massive 5-1 victory over Bologna to close the gap on Roma to 1 point. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, shall we talk about Atalanta against Hellas Verona? Gab Marcotti with us. Gab, Atalanta can only manage a 1-1 draw. The wheels are coming off. It's all over.
Yeah, clearly 2 draws in a row, 4 points dropped. Sack Gasperini. No, look, at some point this is obviously going to catch up with them. And look, Verona are a really good side. They're on the top of the table. They play actually, in some ways, of quite a similar style to Atalanta with the high pressing. They'll outrun you. They'll make life difficult for you. And, in this case, Atalanta took the lead and couldn't hang on.
Meanwhile, Gab, AC Milan flying, it seems, after the break. 5 goals today, 5 different goal scorers.
Yeah, and none of them named Zlatan, remarkably. Look, Bologna are an attacking side. They will give you space, and Milan exploited it. Milan played really, really well, top to bottom. I thought Frank Kessie in midfield is back to the player he was probably before he joined Milan, when he was still at Atalanta, funnily enough. Benacer, tremendous effort, tremendous goal. Ante Rebic up front. I'm glad he got a goal because he was involved in just about everything they did. They looked lively, they looked motivated, and they're definitely a team on a roll. And they're right there in Roma's taillights.
Where does this put Stefano Pioli overall, Gab?
Well, look, the situation really hasn't changed. If anything, there's going to be more skepticism about Ralf Rangnick. Personally, I think if you're a club, if you make a decision, you gotta go in wholeheartedly. Now, as I understand it, and as I've reported before, Rangnick wants to come in and he wants to kind of be an old school sort of English style manager, a position which weirdly doesn't really exist much in the Premier League anymore. But he wants to be in charge of recruitment, so be director of football type. He did a great job for the Red Bull organization doing that. But he also wants to go back to and manage and be there on the sidelines. And I think if the club want to get him, and it's not, as I understand it, nothing has been signed yet. They simply have. They're simply, they've had talks and there's an agreement in principle. But he wants both jobs, and that means that there's no room for Stefano Pioli in that mix. I think PR-wise, it's going to make it a lot harder for the club. But, really, if Rangnick comes in and hits the ground running and signs good players and replicates even a portion of the job that he did at Red Bull, then I think people will forget about Stefano Pioli pretty quickly.
Yeah, that kind of answers my question, because I'm just wondering what the fan base are feeling about all of this at the moment.
Fan base are conflicted. Stefano Pioli is a very likable guy. He's a safe pair of hands. That's why he was brought in. I think the team have really taken to him. The bar was set pretty low by Gianpaolo, but you're seeing what this team can do and what this team was supposed to do, in the summer with the signings that were made by the club. I think a big part of the media and a big part of the sort of the Milan ex-players who gravitate around the club and who opine on television, a lot of them feel that, oh no, you should stick with Pioli. Equally, if keeping Pioli means you can't have Rangnick, I'm pretty sure the club will go with Rangnick.
Finally, Gab, I hear it's your day off tomorrow, so I won't have the opportunity to look ahead to that big game between Juventus and Lazio. Our one last hope, I suppose, that maybe we could have a little bit of a title race at the end. Lazio, though, have been so rubbish at the moment, and you wouldn't really put anything on them. But you never know. We maybe could have said that ahead of the Arsenal game today. Lazio to spring a surprise?
You know what? I wouldn't put it past them, because I think at this stage of the season, when your nerves are as frayed as Juve's nerves are right now, and the reality is, this might have been unthinkable in Allegri's time, but this is a different Juve. This is a much more fragile Juve, and I think this is a Juve where a lot of the players, not Cristiano Ronaldo, but a lot of the other guys are going to look up. They're going to see those Lazio shirts. They're going to see Luis Alberto, and they're going to be like, oh my God, these are the guys who've already beaten us twice this season. And equally from Lazio's perspective, okay, there's probably not going to be a title race involving you. You've still had a great season, but what better way than to go out and beat Juve for a third time, if you count the Super Cup? So I don't think Inzaghi's going to have any issues motivating them. I think this is going to be a real test for Maurizio Sarri, and not just him, because we've made it all about him, but really for some of the veterans, some of these older players on this team, whether it's Bonucci, whether it's Chiellini, who probably won't start, but is still there in the mix. This is a team that needs to be taken by the scruff of the neck, and they need to say, look, remember who we are, let's go, and let's just see this out. And really, this is a game where I think you're going to need to see that leadership.
Gab Marcotti, as always, thank you very much for your thoughts. That game, by the way, is live on Monday on ESPN Plus at 3:45. Meanwhile, tomorrow, we've got 6 games for you in total from Italy, all ending with that big one in Rome as Roma take on Inter Milan. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.